Okay, picture this. Imagine making a few personal life choices that eventually ripple out to impact literally millions of people across the globe. Sounds impossible, right? Well, today we're exploring the life, the profound internal struggles, and the ultimate triumph of John Wesley. He's the English minister who sparked the massive worldwide Methodist movement, and his story is absolutely fascinating. To really wrap our heads around the sheer, relentless dedication of this guy, let's kick things off with a massive number: 250,000. Before cars, before trains, before airplanes, John Wesley rode over 250,000 miles on horseback just to share his message. To put that into perspective, that's like riding a horse around the Earth's equator 10 times. All of that just to reach ordinary people. We are dealing with someone who is absolutely driven by a singular purpose. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the man behind Methodism. Look at his early days in From Fire to Oxford and hit his major turning point in A Heart Strangely Warmed. Then we'll explore preaching to the people, the Methodist movement, and wrap up with his worldwide legacy.
Starting off with Section 1, The Man Behind Methodism.
Now, you might be wondering, did he set out to create a new church? Well, despite sparking this massive global movement, John Wesley actually remained a priest in the Church of England his entire life. He wasn't trying to tear down the institution, he was really trying to revive it from the inside out. He became known for his incredibly passionate preaching, a fiercely disciplined lifestyle, and just this burning desire to help ordinary people know God. He didn't want religion trapped behind closed doors just for the elite. He wanted faith to be a living, breathing reality for everyday folks.
Which brings us to Section 2, From Fire to Oxford. And the fire part? That's literal. Born in 1703 as the 15th of 19 children, Wesley's early life features a terrifying event. At age 5, he was pulled from his burning family home at the absolute last second, and he spent the rest of his life believing God spared him from those flames for a very specific purpose.
That purpose unfolded over a really incredible 87 years. Here's a quick look at the timeline we're about to explore. From his birth in 1703 to a highly unsuccessful mission trip to America in 1735, his massive spiritual breakthrough in 1738, all the way to his death in 1791. We are basically watching a rescued kid transform into a global catalyst.
You know what's actually pretty funny? The origin of the word Methodist. While he was studying at Oxford, Wesley and his friends formed this group dedicated to intense Bible study, strict fasting, and helping prisoners. The other students completely mock them. They call them Methodists as an insult, just to make fun of how rigid and methodical their lives were. But the joke totally backfired. That campus insult ended up becoming the proud title of an entire worldwide movement.
All right, moving to Section 3, A Heart Strangely Warmed. This is where everything shifts.
To really get his biggest spiritual breakthrough, we first have to look at his biggest breakdown. In 1735, relying entirely on his strict, rigid methods, Wesley traveled to America. He wanted to convert Native Americans and strengthen the Christian communities over there. But the mission was incredibly difficult, and honestly, it was a complete failure. He returned to England totally crushed, deeply discouraged, and really uncertain about his own faith.
Now, what's really interesting here is the profound internal conflict he was facing. On one side, he had this belief in salvation through human effort. That was his early, rigid, Oxford-era mindset, right? Trying to literally earn spiritual success through strict rules. But on the other side was salvation through faith. He was right on the edge of realizing that you just cannot work your way into heaven. It requires this fundamental, life-altering shift from exhausting self-reliance to a total reliance on grace.
And that exact shift happened on May 24, 1738. He was sitting in a meeting on Aldersgate Street in London, listening to a reading of Martin Luther's commentary on Romans, and suddenly everything finally clicked. He went home and wrote in his diary, "I felt my heart strangely warmed." In that single defining moment, he stopped relying on his own human effort and fully embraced faith. It was a profound epiphany, and it transformed his entire ministry forever.
That takes us to Section 4, Preaching to the People. Look at this number, 40,000. Once his heart was changed on the inside, his methods completely changed on the outside. He realized he couldn't just sit around and wait for people to come to his church, so he went out to them. He delivered over 40,000 sermons. Instead of standing behind a safe, comfortable pulpit, he preached outdoors, in open fields, in bustling marketplaces, in impoverished mining villages. He went directly to the everyday people who rarely, if ever, attended traditional church services.
When he stood out in those fields, his message was revolutionary, but it was also incredibly simple.
First, God loves everyone, not just the wealthy elite. Second, salvation is a gift you receive through faith, not some status you have to earn. And third, Christians should live holy lives filled with genuine love and good works. This grace-driven message just resonated deeply, and the crowds that gathered to hear him were absolutely massive.
Which naturally brings us to Section 5, the Methodist movement.
Let's see how this all builds. With thousands of people experiencing this newly transformed faith, Wesley knew they needed structure. Otherwise, the excitement would just fade away after this sermon ended. So he organized these new believers into tight-knit small groups. They got together for Bible study, intense accountability, and charity work. Again, he wasn't trying to create a new denomination, but these highly effective little groups organically grew into the absolute bedrock of the entire Methodist movement.
So the crucial point here is captured perfectly in one of his most famous quotes: "No holiness, but social holiness." Wesley deeply believed that if you truly loved God, it absolutely had to lead to loving others. Serving the poor, helping the needy, and dedicating yourself to your community, that wasn't just an optional extra. It was the actual proof of your faith. You don't just live for yourself, you live to serve.
But, John didn't pull all this off alone. Check out the number 6,000. That belongs to his younger brother, Charles Wesley. While John was out preaching 40,000 sermons, Charles was writing an astonishing 6,000 hymns. We're talking massive classics we still sing today, like Hark the Herald Angels Sing. The whole Methodist revival was basically a movement that was spoken by John and sung by Charles. And finally, Section 6, a worldwide legacy. John Wesley didn't slow down. He continued traveling and preaching well into his late 80s, eventually passing away at age 87. But his life's work laid an incredible foundation. He emphasized personal faith, disciplined Christian living, a huge push for education, and unwavering care for the poor. His ministry went on to inspire millions and grew into one of the largest Christian traditions in the world today. As a really poetic capstone to this lifelong journey of 250,000 miles, we have his reported final words on his deathbed on March 2nd, 1791. He simply said, "The best of all is, God is with us." It's just a beautiful, powerful summary of everything he spent his entire life teaching, that at the end of the day, faith is ultimately about a personal, present relationship with God. So, I want to leave you with this thought. How does Wesley's dramatic shift from rigid self-reliance to a grace-driven life of serving others challenge our own approach to helping the world today? It's a pretty powerful reminder that our greatest impact happens not when we try to just force our way through, but when our hearts are genuinely changed to serve others. Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Keep learning, keep asking great questions, and I'll see you in the next Explainer.